The Hungarian Grand Prix is just concluded, and the next stop is the Belgium Grand Prix at the end of August. F1 drivers and their teams are scrambling to get things in order so they can finish on top. However, due to some unforeseen events, some drivers found themselves stumbling, getting disqualified, and being deducted points. In this video, we're going to talk about Pierre Gasly and all the latest news from F1. So hold on tight because the ride is going to get interesting. Before we get into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss any of the new videos we post. Since leaving the Red Bull Racing team, Pierre Gasly has been doing well for himself. His performance in Baku has been great. In fact, he took his third podium for the team and it was his first for the season. However, sitting next to Verstappen next year might be a long shot. His good form has led to various comparisons with the Australian-Italian racing driver McLaren, Daniel Ricciardo. He's also been linked with other teams. During a live broadcast, a commentator, Ted Kravitz, even mentioned that Gasly might be interested in Ricciardo's seat in McLaren. Pierre Gasly wants to try and outperform Daniel Ricciardo, even though Ricciardo is having a good weekend because he's only 1 point behind him in the Drivers' Championship, he quoted PlanetF1.com. Incidentally, by the time the comments were made, Ricciardo's lead over Gasly grew by 11 points. Gasly wants to take advantage of Ricciardo's problems and try to challenge him by the end of the year. Remains to be seen if he can do that. So, is there a chance for Gasly to drive for McLaren? We all know how much Gasly wants to go to a better team, but experts don't see the chances of him transferring to McLaren anytime soon. Why? Because Lando Norris was just given a contract extension that'll last for a few years, and obviously, the team won't be letting him go in the near future. For Ricciardo's part, although his performance has been less than stellar, he has a contract that's good until next year. As of now, there is no news yet if he will be let go. In other F1 news, Vettel lost his second-place finish in Hungary after he was disqualified for a fuel sample issue. Aston Martin's Sebastian Vettel was disheartened to find out that the results of the Hungarian Grand Prix after race officials were unable to take the necessary fuel sample from his car after the race. It's stipulated in the technical regulations that competitors must ensure that a 1.0-liter sample of fuel may be taken from their car at any time during the event. However, race officials were only able to take 0.3 liters from Vettel's car after Sunday's race. The officials' decision meant that Lewis Hamilton of the Mercedes team will inherit the second place and Ferrari's Carlos Sainz will get the final podium place. The Aston Martin team has expressed their intent to appeal, adding on Twitter, "The 18-point loss is disappointing for the team, but it doesn't take away from an otherwise flawless drive from Sebastian. Today we showed that our car has a strong race pace, onwards and upwards." Meanwhile, the rest of the top 10 behind Vettel will inherit a place each, with Alfa Romeo's Kimi Raikkonen being promoted from P11 into the final points for the position of P10. The new results also mean that Hamilton will extend his title lead over Max Verstappen by an additional 2 points after picking up 18 points to Verstappen's 2 points. George Russell, on the other hand, was overcome with emotion after he finished 9th for Williams in Hungary. He not only took his first ever points for the team, but backed up his first double points haul since the 2018 Italian Grand Prix. He rallied from P8 from P17 on the grid after the opening lap collisions that saw 5 drivers leaving the race. His teammate Nicholas Latifi shot up 12 places to P6 on lap 1 too. Latifi finished 8th and Russell 9th, but they both moved one level up after Vettel's disqualification. They were both ahead of Verstappen, who picked much of the damage from the lap 1 incident. Both Russell and Latifi took their first points for Williams. I literally shed a tear earlier. I don't know literally where it came from. It all just came flooding out. Russell said on the F1 TV post-race show, "It does mean so much more than just scoring points when you've been fighting for this for so long. At one point, you just think, is it ever going to happen?" Verstappen lamented his frustrating run to P9 in the race after being taken out by Mercedes again. He will be heading into the summer break after having lost his title lead to rival Lewis Hamilton. Verstappen finished 10th after later became P9 after he was hit on the opening lap as a result of contact between Hamilton's Mercedes teammate Valtteri Bottas and McLaren's Lando Norris. Verstappen had made his way from P3 to P2 off the line when suddenly Bottas misjudged his braking and slammed into Norris, who then hit Verstappen. Bottas also made contact with Sergio Perez and forced him into retirement. The incident resulted in Verstappen suffering extensive damage to his right-hand barge board and floor. Although he was still able to continue with the race, his performance was not enough to finish higher than P10. Hamilton recovered from a poor strategy call that saw him dropping to last at one point, but fortunately, he recovered and went on to P2 after having undercut past Verstappen in the pit stops. Esteban Ocon was elated to have won his maiden F1 race in the process. For the second race in a row, Sergio Perez was left without any points after being the unfortunate victim in the first corner collision in Hungary. What's even worse for the Red Bull driver is that his engine may have been damaged too. He started fourth in the grid but was hit by Valtteri Bottas going into the first turn after Finn had misjudged his braking and ran into the back of McLaren's Lando Norris. Just like Bottas, Perez was out on the spot and left to think what might have been. Could he have earned a podium placement without the accident? Speaking while the race was still going on, the Mexican said, "It's a big shame. I was up to third, I outbraked the McLaren, I was really finding good grip already and unfortunately got some damage, and that meant basically I lost a lot today. In the beginning I thought, oh, it was Lando, but it was clear that Bottas made a big mistake and took everyone out of the race. It's a big shame. It's a massive blow for the team, but we also lost the engine very likely, so not ideal." Because of the incident, Bottas was given a 5-place grid drop for Belgium. However, Perez also fears that he might be facing a grid penalty. The two-time Grand Prix winner went into the weekend having used 2 of the 3 engines in his allocation for the season. He's already used more control electronics and energy stores than allowed, so any added changes can trigger a grid drop in Belgium. Perez remains in 4th place in the driver's standings behind Norris. His Red Bull team slipped to 2nd in the constructors' standings behind Mercedes. Verstappen's sole point in Hungary is one of just the 4 the team have scored in the last 2 races. Alpine's Esteban Ocon became the first French driver to win in a French car with a French engine since Alain Prost's victory in Austria in 1983 driving in a Renault. He is the 14th French driver to win in F1 and the 2nd French winner in 2 seasons after 24 years with none. Pierre Gasly was the other at Monza last year. It's the first ever win for the Alpine name in F1. Currently, the Enstone-based team has now won under 4 different names, the others being Lotus, Renault, and Benetton. It's also the 50th win for the team since they started at Toleman in 1981. Ocon also happens to be the 111th driver to win a World Championship event in F1. There's a lot to look forward to for the coming Belgium Grand Prix, which is taking place on the 29th of August. Mercedes cruised to a 1-2 finish in 2020. Will they be able to do the same this year, or will another team take the race and make their own? Those are just some of the questions hardcore F1 fans have. The Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps is an iconic stop on the Formula One calendar, as it is one of the 7 original circuits that made up the maiden championships in 1950. The track was shortened and redeveloped to 7.004 kilometers in 1979, but it still holds the distinction of being the year's longest track. The track is a mix of fast corners, long straights, and unpredictable weather, which makes it one of the campaign's premier events. Michael Schumacher leads the way with 6 wins at Spa. Lewis Hamilton and Kimi Raikkonen both have hopes of catching up with the race's great, as they both sit on 4 behind the legendary Ayrton Senna. The most recent winner was Hamilton, converting his pole position to a dominant win ahead of teammate Valtteri Bottas and Max Verstappen, rounding out the top 3. Is a full-on Hamilton and Verstappen duel going to happen? We're quite sure that a lot of people are looking forward to this. Who do you think is going to win the Belgium Grand Prix? Is there any driver or team you're cheering for? Let us know in the comments section. That's all for the F1 news we have for you today, folks. Stay tuned to this channel for more news. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you around.